Hello, Scott. Thank you for being here.
Oh, hi, Perry. As if we didn't just have a private journey before this.
Yeah.
Maybe you could share a little bit since I'm running one body on Earth for now, what it's like for listeners to go on a private journey. I obviously can't do that for everybody listening, but they can get the same benefit by going on the journey with us when they play back the radio show too, because they're going to meet with some of the same beings that's recorded in the show. And they're going to do the same thing. It's just done a little bit different. We don't want to overwhelm them by having them go to places so far beyond their understanding that they can't get grounded with it. So we go on these journeys first to get people out of their body, to learn how to discover how to apply what they do every night by putting their body to sleep, to do it but stay conscious and leave the body. And we get it in the trance state we call sleep. And that's part of the process that we go through. A little bit later in the radio show, we'll go through that process for everyone. So you might want to share with your listening people a little bit what it's like for you to go on a private journey. How does it compare to a group journey? How does it compare to a radio show?
I think the more I do, the more I have experience. So my imagination is clearer, okay, and more in peaceful serenity, what I would say. And I'm very much happy in my life, much better, awakening and understand more about creation of this planet and the direction where we are going to.
Yeah. Well, that's important because if you're getting benefit from it, uplifting benefit, then your physical life is becoming less afraid of almost everything.
And Scott, there are so many beings involved in this transition. So, everybody has to have their own experience.
Right. Mm-hmm. And they do. The reason we record these shows, of course, is so that in my case with me and you, is so that people can have a little guided journey about how to remember how to see what it's like to be out of their body, how safe it is, the kind of beings that will meet them when they're out of their body, especially at night when they're put the body to sleep. People go out of their bodies, but they just aren't aware. They grow up in a society that teaches them nothing about this, virtually from school, governments, religion, everything. Doesn't teach them anything of this because the people that are running those things don't know about it either. They don't remember. So to recover the ability to leave one's body while we're alive and to go and explore the other heavens, so to speak, other dimensions and other things, certainly eliminates the fear of death, number one.
Correct.
Because we're not physical bodies and we never have been. People have been hoodwinked and scallywagged and scoundreled and lied to by almost everything in the lower dimensions, contrary to who they really are, and to get them convinced that they're a body or there's something that can grow old and die. And so fear runs through most people, terror of the unknown, terrible fear of leaving their body. Some religious leaders teach people falsely that the devil will get you if you get out of your body, which is about the stupidest thing anybody could ever misdirect someone about. Because when people lose this body, they're going to have to get out of it anyway. It's absurdly stupid to tell people such things. Because the thing of it is, people are terrified of getting out of their body and finding out what these other heavens are like while they're alive. They have to wait till they die to know anything. And that keeps them ignorant and inexperienced their whole life until they pass away. And this is not normal, and it is not right. And it's not like how beings are on other many planets and other human beings that people on Earth are being kept from knowing about because of a classified system on this planet that is undergoing change as we speak. Because the original classification system that began worldwide after World War II was designed to be fully disclosed the truth to people when they felt people could handle it. And then just when out of bad habit and too much time, the people doing that kind of took it on as a power for themselves to keep the system running and funded like they've got it going, to keep the masses of people in the dark about this. And it's wrong. It's negative, royal family bloodline, extraterrestrial kind of thinking It's not native to Earth to think this way, to lie to people and say, well, I get to know it because I'm some elite person, but you don't. That's just negative programming in those people. And it was done to them without their awareness. It was done to everybody on this planet without their awareness, even presidents. So you see, when I say that it's going to require help from free beings, very advanced races and beings that know how to work with the omnipresent living energy that supports all life, people on Earth do not know how to do that. They don't even believe in it. They don't even know what it is. It's a faith or a belief in something that they're going to find out about maybe when they die. And this isn't right. The normal state of a human being, a Hu, man or woman being, Hu, is to connect to that first sound behind all creation, what some people call Holy Spirit. And it's a conscious connection to it. And it's not made up of positive and negative things in the lower dimensions. It is something that is behind it and supports all of it, good or bad. What beings imagine in this energy is what it co-creates with them. So people on Earth don't realize that when they think good things and bad things and imagine terror and fear and wonderful things for their family, this thing is creating both things with them. The idea was so that it would teach people better how to use their imagination. Because in the law of physics in the lower worlds, when you imagine something negative or constructive, positive or negative, it comes to you, it comes back to you. So law of physics, every action creates an equal but opposite reaction from the universe. And so people trap themselves with both sides of the coin without realizing they're doing it. Because the experiment of what we call evil, set up millions of years ago in the lower dimensions, is a failed experiment. It doesn't work. It never worked. And all of us at some point were involved in creating it. What I mean by that is that what is alive that isn't this body is not made of physical atoms and protons and neutrons. It's not nuclear. It is not made of matter of the lower worlds. It is energy, but not as people on Earth understand it anymore. They've long forgotten it. And the human being, the real you and I, can connect directly into that field of energy. It runs through the void of space. Scientists today call it dark matter, and they know it's energy. It's not really dark, except physical human eyes can't see higher frequencies to see that it is actually luminous. Bright white light with a gold tinge running through everything, connecting everything in the so-called void of space. Scientists on Earth know it's not a void. It doesn't have oxygen, but it's full of energy, connects everything. So they call it the God particle because they don't understand it. They know it's there, but it doesn't operate according to the laws of physics. They can't prove it mathematically that what it does. They really don't know what it does. They just know it's there. So what I mean is that at the beginning, before the lower worlds were created, all energy that makes up individual atoms, that's spherical. If you don't mind, hold up that poster right now. Show it. Now bring it a little closer. Stop and hold it still so the camera will focus. You can see a white core, then it becomes a yellow, then an orange, then a red, then starts to become a green, then a blue. Basically, it goes out. It's like the spectrum breaking of light through a prism to a lavender, then a violet, series of teardrop-shaped layers out to an energy field around it that is kind of a gold offshoot of the white core. And that's the new ray in the Hu, the omnipresent living energy that powers that being. That is an individual being. It's not a human body. That is what the actual soul or atom of a being looks like, made or is in creation in the same image as the source, the prime creator itself. And it's made of exactly the same energy on a smaller scale, like a drop of pure energy, conscious, in a huge ocean of that energy. So what people think on Earth that the human body is made in the image of God is not true. at all, because we aren't bodies and we never were. It also means that beings that are on earth today, as ignorant as some of them are, in terror and killing each other and do whatever they do, long ago, before this life, before they were made to forget everything, they understood what the lower dimensions were and helped create them as individuals within this source energy, made of the same thing, communicating, connected to everyone. And then an experiment of evil was created in order to test beings, to try to cattle prod them, hopefully to move away from negative things into positive things and become trustworthy co-creators with that source. That was an experiment that failed in hundreds of billions of years of creating the lower worlds. It's failed. It worked so well, it trapped the Atmas in the lower worlds, and they have not been doing what they were meant to do, which is to go in the lower worlds, run these higher genetic bodies like human and others that higher faculties of the Atma can run through to experience tactile sensation and physicalness and air and water and all these things made of lower matter. And then from the experiences, visualize new ways of doing things to make life better. The whole idea was to make the lower dimensions one day become mirrors of the upper worlds that are way beyond the void, known to most Buddhist monks. It's not because Buddhist monks are ignorant or anything. It just means, and some of them are very disciplined spiritually, it just means that they've been taught that the void is it. And this is not correct. So they don't imagine and go beyond it. They can, but they need to remember what it looks like on the other side of that void, in the upper world. And when they do that, then they can use their great discipline to go further and find out greater truth than they know now. So I want to make that point for their benefit. The discipline they have can be used for them to go much further, but they need to be aware there is much further to go than the void. A lot of higher planes above that don't work the same as in the lower dimensions, positive and negative. They don't work the same.
Scott, may I ask, for people to have such experience, to go beyond this, how often they should practice with hue?
Well, practicing the hue, just sending it out doesn't really work unless you're. See, the idea of meditation is thousands of years old, and it worked for the nervous system of primitive man on Earth. In cultures that were, I don't know, more buggy and cart, and horse, and in cultures before electricity and stuff. And the world wasn't always like that. There have been cultures long before Rome and Samaria that had higher spaceships on this planet, all kinds of things in history that people don't remember. It goes back 55 million years after the dinosaurs on Earth were made extinct. 65 million years, actually. Different points of view on that, but let's just call it 65 million years. I used to say 55, but it's a little longer than that. So I say 55 to 65 million years, but it's more towards the 65. So beings like us in this form were coming here in ships and in colonization, exploration journeys from different worlds, other galaxies, many tens of millions of years ago.
Yes, God, how often we should practice with hue?
I'm getting there. Practicing the hue won't work. Just sending it out and waiting for something to happen to you doesn't work. It has to do, if people think in meditation, the idea was to calm your senses down, shut off your mind, go into a stillness. And the really idea of doing that is so you can get out of your body consciously. That's the only reason meditation is done. But people aren't taught that. Gurus don't even teach people that. Some do maybe. But it's really for the purpose of getting out of your body as a being, as an Atma, what you showed people earlier, and moving around the universe on this omnipresent field of energy that we move and live and have our being on. That's old stuff. That's normal. People on Earth think they're normal, but they're not. They're not. They don't remember what they are. That is not this. They think this is what was made in some big being up there. Is walking around with a big beard and sitting in a throne with a big staff, and that's God. There's no such being up there. like that. That's,
Scott,
now,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
thinking like a body. And the beings that are running around on Earth have been made to forget all that in a history they don't remember. They don't know how they got on Earth. They don't know what their real purpose is. They're told it's to go to heaven or something, but they're not consciously experienced in any of this. And that's not practical to have people go somewhere when they've spent their whole life doing nothing but relying on faith or somebody else, and then go to some heaven as irresponsible, childish people who don't take responsibility for themselves spiritually, and throw that on the universe because they'd go out into this other dimension and just mess it up because they don't know what they're doing consciously. So it's important that people have experience. Faith is a good place to start, but a terrible place to end up. It should go to experience and knowing and wisdom and love, which is not unconscious. It's very important. So when you go into something like contemplation, it's not meditation in the hue. It's working with the imagination to see into these other worlds and other realities. It's active. You have to be in a still place with your body going in the trance state called sleep. People are experts at this. They do it every night all over the planet and have no idea that's what they're doing. How is it a person puts their body to sleep? They don't even think about it. They're so unconscious here. You go to bed and you say, I'm going to bed, dear, and they go and get in bed and they start drifting off and they go to sleep. Well, what is it they're doing to that body to put it in that trance state, a restful state, while they leave it and go out? How is it they know unconsciously how to do it? Where did they learn how to do that? Growing up? No.
Yes, Scott, the way we are taught to do the meditation here, mostly, they only tell us to focus on our breathing, you know, so like they don't want us to have like imagination, just to focus breathing our body.
But that's only the first step. You concentrate on your breathing so that you're not thinking negative things. You're focused on something that provides life. The breath. The breath in oxygen is not the real breath. The energy behind the breath is what's breathing out and breathing in. It's moving through the universe in an outward field of energy, and then it comes back upward the planes towards the source. If you're really starting to work on seeing into the other worlds and remembering, then you get hooked up to the current that goes back towards the source. The breathing out and breathing in is so you'll get an idea that you're supposed to take energy in and go out on it. You don't just sit in your body. Say, that's not real. Whoever's teaching that stuff doesn't really know what they're doing. Because the whole point of stilling the mind and emotions is so that you can put the body in the trance state called sleep. You do every night anyway, except you get out consciously. You don't identify with being a body and go unconscious with it while it sleeps. People that do that are actually leaving the body anyway. But their conditioning and upbringing on this planet makes it so they don't think any of that's real. And they will go out and have experience in other bodies they have running on other planes and come back here. Sometimes they'll bring back a dream. A lot of times they won't bring back any awareness. And they'll get the body up in the morning. How is it they knew how to put that body unconscious? People know how to do it, but they didn't learn it on Earth. They've just been made to forget what it does and how they do it. It's just unconscious. They just do it unconsciously. Somebody who's more adept at who they are as a being puts the body in the trance state we call sleep. And they go into the hue through the pineal gland, the center of the brain, and they actually become aware that they're this spherical energy hovering above this body, running it. And it's that that goes out and journeys into creation. Running on the white core of its energy that's connected to that underlying field of omnipresent force that connects everything together. Beings from other worlds and more advanced races out in the stars know this. They grow up, their children are taught it at birth. Kids are raised differently. And they're telepathic. They remember other lives and other worlds. They're not made to forget. They don't have classified systems lying to everybody on their worlds. And people on Earth have kept in the complete dark about this under a classified system. The number one reason for that system, the only reason for it, isn't to cover up nuclear bombs or technology like that. That was the beginning. It's done to keep people on Earth from knowing extraterrestrial beings exist on other worlds, more advanced than us. It's done out of fear. That's the only reason it exists. It has no other value than that. It's not to keep the bad commies over in Russia from knowing what we're doing or vice versa. That's an excuse put on the public. It's done so an elite group of people can know what is going on, at least to some degree, that extraterrestrials are coming here, have some kind of a treaty, make trade, do something, keep everybody else ignorant of it on Earth. Because the excuse is people will riot in the streets. That's nonsense. That's not true. People have been conditioned from feature films for decades about extraterrestrials, good and bad. Star Trek, Stargate Atlantis, and SG-1, and Lord of the Rings even, good and bad magic. There's all this stuff that's come out on all these films to help people understand how energy works, good and bad. What is created in life is what is imagined. Comes back on the person doing the imagining sooner or later. And we're responsible as the spherical Atma, the soul, to use our imagination properly. You can't be throwing it on some evil person or demon or somebody out in space and say it's all their fault. Because people have ended up on Earth without any awareness, as they are, because of the way they misused their imagination somewhere and made them vulnerably trapped, captured, and put on this Earth with no memory. Even in the other planes, astral, causal, mental, and etheric. The positive and negative runs through those too. The beings people worship in those planes are tyrants. And they run both currents through themselves. And so they smile at you one time and stab you in the back the other. And it's our job to go beyond that nonsense, across the void, and return from all this experience with new ways to share with beings in the upper worlds about how to create the lower worlds so that the experiment of evil, which is a failed experiment, can be retired permanently. So what is brought in to take its place is an energy in the omnipresent first sound behind all creation. The first word was a vibration, a sound, not sound on Earth as people understand it. And it carried all the information about how to create the lower worlds that work on the positive and negative stream just below the void. It splits into a dual current from there. Above there, it's one whole current. It doesn't have a positive and negative. That's where we come from originally, all of us. Age of bodies has nothing to do with how ancient the Atma or soul is, because it's not made of physical matter at all. And in its natural state, it is in command over all negative things. Negative beings in or out of bodies or misuse of technology here or on other worlds. And that is what needs to wake up in the Atma that runs human bodies on Earth. So that misdirected subconscious nonsense that drives them to behave like they do on Earth can be given up. They won't focus there anymore. They won't put their imagination there, and it'll just go away. It'll vanish. Right now, people on Earth are being conditioned to keep it in place without realizing this. That is how tyrants run things. They themselves are more heavily programmed in this way than the people they dominate. It was done to them more severely by beings who would like to take this planet over, or could have, would have tried to, would have if they hadn't been stopped, especially since World War II. If beings from other worlds had not intervened in this planet, at least to the degree of keeping us from annihilating ourselves in nuclear war, everybody on this planet would be dead right now. People don't realize that the radiation from Fukushima was far worse than in Chernobyl. It killed millions, radiated a whole area. 4 of them blew their tops off, 3 out of 4. That should have killed everybody in Japan. Part of Eastern Russia, or is it Western Russia? That'd be Eastern Russia. China, Northwestern United States. At one point, there were 60 rads of energy coming towards the northwest coast of the United States from Fukushima in the ocean and climbing. We measured it, had it tested in the lab. And then suddenly, it vanished from the ocean. Our military-industrial complex didn't do that. People should have been dead from that catastrophe. Only 1 person died from radiation in Fukushima that I know of. The rest were killed in the flood of the tsunami. And people don't stop to think, as busy as their lives are being misdirected all the time, that none of that is natural. None of that took place on Earth. Something neutralized that radiation, or we would all be dead. What was it? How did that get done? It's important for people to ask these questions because as an Atma, as a being, they have the capability to understand this. But to do it, you got to get above the earth, out of your body, and look down on things objectively, not being caught in the purposefully disseminated good and bad truth and misdirection that's thrown out on the internet and in radio and TV on earth. Because that's deliberate, to keep people in doubt about everything. When you're out of your body and up here as the Atma, you can know things with certainty. There's no doubt, no fear, no speculation, no theory. No. The Atma, the real us, knows because it can connect into the energy that knows behind all life. If beings on Earth knew this, Earth would change overnight. It's important for people to know that too. Well, let's go on a little journey. When I talk about contemplation, it's a much more active, much higher energy. It's a more co-creative involvement the being who's trying to become enlightened has in exploring the multidimensional universe. They have to be actively involved in seeing and understanding what is on other worlds, in parallel dimensions, in higher dimensions, for themselves. They're going to find it out when that body dies anyway. So why wait till you die because you're so afraid that you might get trapped? The point is, what people don't realize is on Earth, they're already caught. They're already trapped. You can't get trapped any worse out there by some demon getting out of your body. They're already stuck here with little to no form of memory of how they got here, who or what they are as a being, as a soul. They think they're one of these. That's as far down as you can be suppressed. Really. So there's only one direction to go, and that's up. Into recovering all this. That's what we're endeavoring to do. Myself and associates from other worlds and other dimensions, master teachers and everything else, to work with this new ray in the omnipresent you, the first sound behind creation, and retire the experiment of evil, not just on Earth, out in the universe, up in the different dimensions, below the void, where it exists. It has to be replaced with something that actually works. So you might say that the beings in the upper worlds, people call the Supreme Being, is awoken or come to an awareness of how to do things it didn't know before in order to change the way the lower worlds are run, the lower dimensions, without destroying it. Because in the past, when the things failed and got so bad, the whole 4 lower dimensions were destroyed completely. All the galaxies, everything, wiped out. This has happened several times before already. It isn't in the future. And then beings were drawn up in the upper worlds and then sent back here with the experiment of evil again, and it still failed. There's a definition for what insanity is, a form of insanity. If people keep doing the same thing they're doing, not getting any results, and they keep doing it, that's a form of insanity. People on Earth are in a form of mass insanity because they keep doing the same thing, getting no results. Without really knowing it, of course. They're not to blame. Things were done to them on this earth without their consent or permission, and they were made to forget all about that. I'm just telling people the truth. They don't want to hear it? Too bad. It is what it is. Truth is true for all, or it's not true at all. It's important. Why? Because each individual ultimately is responsible, like a god and goddess amongst the great one, to responsibly create with their imagination, which is not made up in the brain at all. There's nothing in the brain that can imagine anything. The being running the body through the brain can imagine stuff. It sees out into the universe. It sees other planets. It sees higher dimensions. It sees these master teachers, and it can communicate with them. The human brain and body can't do that. It grew up on this earth. It doesn't remember past lives or other realities. It's part of the matter of this plane. And everything it's learned has been taught to it from outside by parents and everything else. But after it becomes an adult, this Atma, the real them, should start coming into this body more and bringing all this other awareness into it. Now, this is not taking place on Earth for the most part. It is on many other worlds, but not on this planet Earth yet. It is now heading in a different destiny than it was prophesied to go into long ago, like Armageddon. That's not going to happen. That's over. It was ended and replaced with a changed destiny that nobody expected. And it's heading in that direction now because the energy that's coming down in the lower worlds and it's coming through this planet now isn't something that tyrants on any world system anywhere can prevent. It's not meant to harm anyone. It's not going to harm them, but it is going to change things. And they need to get in synchronization with that and harmony with it so that we really can't have this transition on this terribly backward planet into a whole new way of living, shared from beings from other worlds, bring their technology and change this place in a way that is not destructive. No rioting in the streets and starvation, all that nonsense. The majority of people on this planet would not do that now if they were told the truth. Simple. They go about their jobs, they keep working, and they do need help from beings from other worlds. So their nervous system, which has been so improperly programmed from birth, can survive the energy changes that are required. DNA, certain genomes on the DNA of human beings has been purposefully shut off. And that needs to be turned back on in a safe, balanced way. Okay, so this is important because once it's said, what I'm doing here is telepathic. It's not psychic. I don't work from the energies in the lower planes. I work from the energies from the upper worlds, which are pure positive, and then it goes through the positive and negative and keeps them in harmony, like the yin and yang symbol. Two teardrops circling around, one black, one white, positive, negative, surrounded by a third energy, kept harmonized to create things without karma, without repercussions. That's good for all life. That is what our destiny as beings, as a human being, really is. To be a conscious, trustworthy co-creator with the supreme source itself, whatever people conceive that to be. We are destined and meant to co-create with it, to take on responsibilities in eternity. That's why we're here. There's the real purpose of why we exist. It isn't what people think. It's not to become a co-slave under a tyrant supreme being, to have to worship it at its feet, because it never required that of us. It was made up by tyrants in between it and us, and from out in space, and governments, tyrant royal families that ran religions to keep people ignorant. They dominated them. And if religious leaders didn't do it, they said they'd kill them. That's the history of this planet as it's known 10 or 15,000 years. That's about it. There's a huge history behind that people don't know existed on this planet. The idea of royal families and a king and a queen was not created on this planet. It was brought here by tyrant races, bringing slaves here. Small areas of earth, but also great, wonderful beings that brought free beings also were allowed to have experimental scientific stations on this planet. Earth, after the Great War 500,000 years ago, was in the middle of something that created it like a Switzerland. It means that no one race has been allowed to dominate this world. They've tried. That's why it hasn't been taken over from outside, but beings have tried to sneak in and misuse technology to control leaders here. They were caught, sometimes even shot down, but not by our military. This is important for people to understand because they don't know their own real history. They don't know the history of Earth. They don't know their history. They're made to forget it. They don't know galactic history. They don't know the history of the multidimensional universe or where they came from. All people on Earth, under the right conditions, have the ability to remember all of this. Hidden leaders, Illuminati, royal families, military people, everyone, under the right conditions. What is underway now, out in the universe and moving through our solar system, is designed to do this. So it's good. There's nothing negative in the future destiny of this planet. It sure looks like that to everybody because there are leaders here who want to keep people that way, in doubt and fear, because then they can be controlled. The people doing that are in as much terror as the people they dominate. Terror of racists from the stars that are tyrant. Terror of what will happen if they tell people the truth. All kinds of fear that has no basis in reality whatsoever. It is true that all of them are going to need help from beings from other worlds to do this safely for themselves and for the rest of life here. It has to be done in a way that's practical. What is underway now has never happened before in the history of creation. Something new is underway out in the other worlds that's heading our way. It's already actually here, but it's going to be increasing in vibration. It's not going to be done in such a way that people are left in shock and utter dismay, ships landing all over the planet scaring everybody. No, that'll happen. Oh yeah, that will happen. All over this earth. At the right time, when people are assisted to handle it properly. It takes a huge mass of numbers of beings from other worlds in a harmonious will to do this and the way to do it because they understand how to do it. It's been done on other worlds, not as severely backward as Earth. So Earth is, let's just say that it's being taken off. It's going to be taken off the quarantine list. What do I mean by that? It means Earth, the solar system we live in, is quarantined. Why? Because people on Earth are nuts. They don't work as one world government. They aren't honest with the people. There's nothing but deception, dishonesty running all over this planet. And that's not going to be tolerated to bring that out in the stars because it isn't. And they're not going to tell you that the solar system's quarantined because they don't maintain their control of people if they tell them the truth. That's what they believe. This isn't true. But they're going to have to find this out on their own. They already know that there are forces and races and people coming here that have not harmed them. Could have easily, but don't. So it means they're wondering, they're getting all, well, how come if they're not bad and we're afraid of them, but they're not hurting us? They're starting to get over. As I said, the original bylaws or what the National Security Act in the United States and classified systems were created at after World War II worldwide. Part of that was to disclose the full truth to people when they felt it would be practical and safe for them to do so. Right after World War II would not have been the proper time. People just needed to feel safe and be baby boomers and rebuild a destroyed world after World War II and feel safe for a while. The negative influences were still here. That's why they had a Korean and a Vietnam War and all that kind of stuff. Because the negative influence, both positive and negative, were still here from other worlds. That's changing. It's changed a lot in the last 20 years. You don't hear stories of new abductees, people being abducted by little gray guys in ships, because that ended a long time ago. People still talk about it as if it's going on, but it isn't. Some things have already changed for the better, but it's not really disclosed to the public fully yet. It's underway, and more to follow. What we're endeavoring to do is to raise the vibration on the planet energetically so that beings have a greater IQ and higher capacity to understand. That will get help when they leave their body at night anyway, every night. I don't care what religion or who they are. They go to sleep and they leave their body, and they'll be approached by beings who are friendly, that'll make them feel safe, and they'll be helped to remember much they've been made to forget. And then when they wake up in the morning, they have a changed consciousness. Things get better for them. Things change. It's being done in that way. And that's for everyone. No exceptions. This is the way beings think on other worlds collectively. They grow up on their worlds, their children grow up desiring to create new ways of doing things for the betterment of all life. It means all their worlds, not just in their system, but in all the worlds. Everybody's path they cross, they want to be of an uplifting benefit. Their motivation is not power and greed and money, because money's illegal on those worlds. They don't use it. That's not their motivation. They left that a long time ago behind. So there's a lot that needs to change here. Let's go on a little journey, unless you have something you'd like to add or ask of your audience or ask me questions or something, but we'll go on a journey.
No, I don't want to interrupt when you are talking, Scott, because it's kind of, you would say, telepathy, right? Full of information. And I am so much in serenity when I listen to you. So I believe that everybody have the same experience.
That's good you say that, because when I say it's telepathic, it means that whoever's listening to this, I don't care if they're classified or the Queen of England. I don't really care who they are on Earth. I'm not from here. I don't have any vested interest to take over and run governments or deprive people of anything. I'm here to help usher in a change that has to happen here anyway. It's going to anyway. But we want to make it a peaceful transition into a higher culture that can be allowed to play among the stars. We're not that way right now, the way we are here. They're not going to be allowed to go out and do that. I don't care what reverse engineering they have or technology from the stars, given to them mostly by tyrants, and that's another problem that had to be solved. It has been solved, and it's being implemented on this Earth. That means the tyrants had to be stopped coming here from other worlds, obviously. And they have been. So the rest of the transition that makes this work involves each and every being on this planet, because it's required that they co-create and want this change. The people bringing it here are not tyrants. They don't force their will on others, but they're not going to tolerate unconscious people on Earth driven by subconscious implanted negative programs they don't even know was done to them, destroying this world and affecting hundreds of billions of lives in parallel and other realities that people don't even know exist. That's not going to be allowed. Nobody on Earth collectively has the right to impose that nonsense on everyone else. There are trillions of beings out there on many levels, and we think 7 billion unconscious people have the right to blow up this planet or take that kind of negativity, governments hating each other out into space. What do you think they found, astronauts in Apollo, on the moon? It was already occupied. And they didn't want us out there the way we were. And that's classified too, by the way. So I'm not telling people this for the first time. Many of the astronauts, most of whom are dead now, that were in the Apollo program, came out before they died and told them that the CIA classified them. They were seeing ships following them from other planets all the way to the moon and back. And when they got there, It's still classified in China, Russia, and the United States, collectively. These guys were running a classified space program the public was not given privilege to know about, parallel to NASA. Very different programs. Because they still felt that it was not proper to tell the people the truth. And eventually they're going to be compelled to do exactly that. They're going to have to. And you know what? They know it. As I'm speaking to you now, they already know it. They've been manipulated to be like they are without their consent too. That is understood off planet. Okay. Contemplation versus meditation. Why is it important? Meditation is an old, archaic way of centering the nervous system for people that thousands of years ago on this planet, when they didn't have this whole communication, telecommunication system and instantaneous communication around the world. It doesn't work for modern man. The nervous system is more evolved, it's different. It requires an active part of each being to co-create, moving and understanding and being light. You can't just be passive and let it, and it's just going to come down and land on you. Self and God realization doesn't come and land on people. They have to co-create it and give permission to this omnipresent force to bring it to them, and they have to co-create imagining it to get it too. It's an active thing. There's the difference. When I go into the hue, which we're going to do, I'll send this out telepathically and we'll raise the vibration. Beings from other worlds and even on ships that are stationed around this planet, shifted out of phase so they're not detectable, even by radar. Do this with me. It's part of the channel of this new ray I talk about in the omnipresent current. It's a consciousness that operates in the lower dimensions of time and space, but is not of time and space. And it supersedes and masters all the lower energies. Not to control people or dominate them, but to set their consciousness free, to waken it up, the higher faculties. That's what it's designed to do. So when I do it, I raise the tones up. We do a certain process so that people listening will go into the trance state called sleep. They do every single night anyway, just like experts, without realizing it, because they're not bodies, they're beings who actually make the pineal gland, the center of the brain, to create serotonin, creates melatonin, and that puts the body in the trance state called sleep, runs the heart, the lungs, the blood, the air, so you can leave. There's a link. It is not an astral cord. It's not a golden cord. It's a link telepathically from the white core of the being to the pineal gland to run the brain in that body, keep it fine and in a state of rest while you go out and explore. So what we do in these things is begin to assist people to simply do what they do every night anyway, is to get in this rested meditative state, then become actively, creatively imaginative, to go on beyond and do something with it. So that's what we do. We'll go a little guided journey. I provide this visual of where we go and what we do so that people can see it in their imagination. It's just as easy as someone sitting in a classroom looking out the window and imagining being on the beach or out playing ball or in the mountains. Everybody does it. It's called daydreaming. What people don't understand is they're not making that up here. The being running that body is unconsciously actually seeing it somewhere in creation. How clear it is or how distorted it is depends on what kind of subconscious terrors are influencing their nervous system, affecting how the atma that's running it sees these things. Because that's what a subconscious mind is. It's this artificially created domain into which things can be programmed to control people. Normal human beings would never tolerate having a subconscious mind through which they can be manipulated. People on Earth are taught this is normal. It is not. Not in any way, shape, or form. No being would run something subconscious on itself unless it was manipulated without its consent to believe that it can be suppressed under other beings. And that's not true. It's just been forced to believe it. And then it uses its imagination to trap itself without realizing it. Then beings can use your energy. So we're going on this journey. I would ask everybody to be peaceful, to sit back in a chair, close their eyes, or lay on a bed or whatever's comfortable for them. Take several deep breaths. And when you breathe out all your fears and worries about this life, your age, health, even if you have a deadly disease, just put it aside for a moment. Just for now, just by imagining it, with the body in your room, in little computer program cards somewhere, it's laying on your floor or carpet, whatever. Fear of the future. What are you going to do with your kids, husbands, wives, children? They're all fine. You're going to go on a journey. Your body's going to be fine. It's going to be in the trance state we call sleep. Same way you put it in every night, except you're going to go consciously into this experience while the body's doing that. That is the difference. Let all of your fears of the future destiny of this planet, your ideas of Armageddon, terror and fear of leaving your body, which you're going to have to do when the body dies anyways, you might as well get used to it now. Put all that on a shelf in the background somewhere. Just set up. This is the terror and fear programs. You're not going to leave those. You're not going to take those with you on this journey. Because where we're going and how we're doing it, you cannot take negative emotions with you of any kind. They will be shut off by the hues I'm about to do. And you will co-create shutting them off for your own benefit. And they're going to be left behind on Earth while we go on a journey. And you're going to bring higher awareness back to the body. And you're going to begin to have more mastery over these negative subconscious feelings of terror and fear. They are artificial. Negative emotions are not normal emotions for a human being. They are artificially programmed negative control mechanisms. They aren't in the brain of the body. They're in the energy field that surrounds the Atma, running the body, because no being's been able to harm an Atma or destroy it. Not a nuclear bomb couldn't do that. But they can create an energy field around it through which the Atma sees that is distorted and full of terror to keep that being stuck. Put that on a shelf, set it aside. Imagine someone you love and respect, you're grateful they are in your life. It can be a person, place, or thing, but it needs to be something that when you first think of it or imagine it, you smile inside. It can be, I don't care if it's a savior or a Buddha or whoever it is that does this for you. It could be your child, a walk at the beach, a beautiful hummingbird, a waterfall, anything. Looking at a dolphin, if that makes you smile. Because it starts to create a connection between the core of your being running that body and the source behind all life itself directly. Plugs it right in. And then that energy will shut down all negative things temporarily. All right. I will begin these tones now and raise them in vibration. Each time I do it, it's representing you operating on another dimension, running a life as a single Atma, not a body, that you don't remember you have there. Why? Because one Atma, one soul, is getting experience to be a co-creator with the source. From the physical, the emotional or astral, the causal, causation, the mental, the mind, etheric, which is a thin layer above the mental, between the void and the upper worlds, through which the Atma must pass on its upward journey. And it's going to be addressing those bodies and the ones in the upper worlds beyond the void, so that we can go and play and explore and remember. The hue sounds like the name Hugh, H-U-G-H. It's the first half of the word human, human or woman. Hidden in plain sight. I will begin these tones now. You. You. You'll be aware of your body, but you'll also lose awareness of it from moment to moment as we go through this journey when you take your attention off it. It's fine. In the trance state we call sleep, you put it there every night anyway. The difference is we're going on a journey consciously now from this point where the body is in the trance state called sleep, and we're going to move what we are, the Atma, the soul, the real being, spherical shape, out into the creation. Imagine a beautiful hummingbird hovering in front of a waterfall, 10 feet from your face, and your bare feet are walking on a brown, moss-covered path. And there's beautiful, tall lavender grass 4 feet high to each side of you, and you can feel your hands extended, feeling the tops of the blades brush the palms of your hands. You can feel a gentle breeze, the smell of gardenias and lavender on the air. And this little hummingbird is hovering there. He comes up to you about a foot away. And he looks at you while he's flapping his wings, hovering in space there in the air. It's pure air, pure oxygen. You can breathe in and feel the energy rushing into you. When you breathe out, you feel like you're sending a communication out into the world. And this little hummingbird picks that up. And he looks you in the eyes. And he sends a little beam of white light right into your forehead. Goes up the body and into the white core of your being, hovering above that body. This body that you have here looks like you. Perfectly healthy, about 30, a mature adult, no matter what age you are. I don't care if you're a 10-year-old child or a 90-year-old person, man or woman. This body looks to be about 30, ageless, perfect. And you're running it. It's an energy form projected from the Atma that looks like you. And you're looking at this hummingbird and you can hear it speak to you in your head. If you look closely, you'll see an Atma sphere hovering above this hummingbird, running it. And it tells you that everything is connected, everywhere in every dimension, through this white light that it's sent to your forehead and up into your being. When you look up, you become the sphere hovering above that body, and you are the white core in the center of that energy field. And you remember that you are comprised of this energy from the source itself, just like the Atma that's running that hummingbird. When you look around you in this environment, you can see what looks like a tall snow-capped mountain in the distance. Up the plateau from tropical jungle trees, very tall, this lavender field in a circle, several hundred feet across. You can see a white marble floor in the center of it and a statue made of quartz of a woman with big wings and her hands out to the side of her head. We'll get into that in a minute. But up there on that mountain peak, up the plateau, it becomes blue-green forest trees. And up on this mountain, 2/3 the way up towards the summit, snow-covered, is a waterfall coming out of a cavern, dropping down a sheer cliff, thousands of feet. And it disappears into blue-green forest trees. The base of the mountain, up on the upper plateau, above the tree line, except for the forest on the back side of it, and there's a tall, crystal clear dome city covering 3 golden-sided pyramids with quartz caps under this big dome. And you can see it up there. Straight ahead, you can see this tall female statue made of quartz. It's perfectly carved. It looks like a woman from another planet. She's 10 feet tall, human, beautiful, longer neck, a bit longer fingers and hands and arms than Earth humans. Beautiful woman. She has violet eyes. The whole thing's made of pure, slightly blue-tinged quartz, but it's a device. And when you look at the eyes in this quartz face of this beautiful woman, you can see eyes right behind the surface of the quartz, and they're violet. Beautiful violet eyes. And her hair, you can focus on it, is right inside the surface of the quartz, is like silver metal. You can reach up and touch it, and it feels soft. And she's got a gold band around her forehead under long, long black hair. And slightly pointed ears like an elf. Looks to be about 36. And she has in the center of this gold band a teardrop-shaped faceted emerald set in this gold band. You can see the wings are open, extended back. She's not an angel from any kind of religious structure on earth. The wings represent the ability of the true being. When you look up above this head of this statue, it's standing on like a 4 foot by 4 foot blue stone like lapis lazuli with gold, laced with gold polish. She's standing on it. Beautiful white dress, bare feet. Her skin is like ivory moonstone, kind of glowing. Long feminine fingers out to the side of her head. And there's a green energy coming from this doorway of the crystal. It's a device. And when you look down this brown moss-covered path, it goes straight out a white roadway. It's kind of a white stone roadway covered with moss, and then it goes out to this emerald green beach. You can see it half a mile away or so. And it's glowing with about a couple inches above it from the same light that this statue is emanating. It's charging it. We're going to go there in a minute. When you look into this emerald crystal on the band between her eyes, you can see other worlds somewhere else in our galaxy. One, you can see right through it and see it is an ocean-covered world with 3 moons full of life like Earth, not overpopulated, but very, very full of nature and water, no polar ice caps on any of these worlds. And this water-covered world has a few island-size, they're not continents, they're bigger than an island, but not size of a continent, centered over the equator, a couple of them. Everything else is water. And if you look in the distance, this world has a trinar sun system. What does that mean? It means there's a big sun, a smaller sun, and a little smaller sun that circle around the big one, and planets revolve around it. This is a doorway, this device, and you can go through this crystal statue that is run by a being, which you can see is apparent within inside the structure of this quartz. And she lives on a world, the other side of the Milky Way galaxy from where Earth is, in the physical universe, in our parallel dimension. And that system has a big world, 4 times bigger than Earth, 3 moons with life on it, and a trinar sun system as well. The planet you saw that's water covered through the emerald crystal on this forehead of this statue is in a parallel dimension, 3 parallel dimensions up from the Earth you know. And it's in the physical universe. It's very evolved. And it is inhabited by beings called Oceanans. They have the highest form of crystal-based science in our galaxy and among many others. The woman you see represented in this statue has a physical body with her husband on that world, clear on the other side of the Milky Way galaxy, and this body you're seeing is 3.5 million Earth years old. Why? Because the being you see hovering above this statue is running this device as a gift to this world, and this world you are on right now is Earth, but it's in a 3rd parallel dimension of the physical universe, a little bit higher frequency and molecular time rate than the world you're used to. Same place, different frequency. There's no pollutions in the atmosphere of this planet. Water, there aren't very many people. They live in the Dome City. They come from other world systems. Master teachers teach here in that Dome City. Beings from other worlds across the Milky Way galaxy come here. It is a protected environment, and it's meant to be utilized as a prototype for the way Earth and our moon, which is barren and does not turn on its axis, is going to become. This isn't a place any negative thing or being or technology can have access to. That isn't possible. I'm showing you this so that you get an idea of what kinds of things you can discover when you're out of your body, you put your body in the trance state called sleep, and you begin to see or imagine, which is not made up in the human brain. It is the ability of the Atma hovering above that body to look into the multidimensional universe on many levels and see and to know things. You're going to see a friend of mine who is named Ambassador Torellian. He is an ambassador for the Se Rays race. The Se Rays are a humanoid race, 18 to 25 feet tall, that immortalized their physical bodies over 1 billion years ago. They did not come from the Milky Way. They didn't come from Andromeda. They're much further out. And they were responsible for creating genetics like human and other forms that become spacefaring, so that beings called Atmas, the real us, can run a nervous system that can handle and transmit higher faculties of being. That is what we were meant to do. People on Earth aren't doing that. They don't remember yet. The Se Rays did not immortalize their body in the sense of making a body live forever as a physical body like ours on Earth. They actually dematerialized it and took it up and stored it in one of those teardrops around their Atma. And they can manifest a solid physical body anywhere in creation. If they need one, you could shake their hand and then they will dematerialize it. That's the immortalization I'm talking about. That's real immortalization, not just making a body live forever, although that happens too. This woman that the statue represents from Zeentranamon 1, a race called Zeentranamus, are on the other side of the Milky Way galaxy. Benevolent, highly evolved, recently joined forces with what we call the Galactic Interdimensional Alliance of Free Worlds. And so the whole Milky Way galaxy is now under benevolent control. The few tyrant races that are spacefaring are being altered as we speak so that they are no longer tyrants. This has never been done before this way. Earth is in the path of this change. When you look up at this mountain, you find you're suddenly hovering above the dome city. You can see 3 golden-sided pyramids, very tall, bigger than the one in Egypt, the biggest one, has quartz caps on them. And there's a long ivory-colored dome building at their base between the 3. Beautiful countryside. Well landscaped, little ivory-colored domed homes. And on the outside periphery of this plateau where this dome city is are 3 blue disc-shaped landing pads, and there are 3 Galactic Alliance scouts parked on them. They have blue-gray metal, cobalt blue top to them, saucer-shaped or disc-shaped, and they've come from the Galactic Alliance. They can land here, go in the dome. There are master teachers, which you call spiritual master teachers, from outside of Earth that come here to this Earth, not the one we live in, to do work. And if they hadn't been here, for a very long time, Earth would have been destroyed already, either by the people on its surface through nuclear war or by tyrant beings who would have gotten control of it. So you see, there has been some intervention here already, or we'd all be dead on this Earth. The Earth would survive, but the people would not, if negative things were allowed to have their way here. So you can see this waterfall pouring out of this cavern opening 2/3 of the way up toward the summit. And up above it is another oval cavern with little circular disc-shaped lights running down inside the mountain. That is an interdimensional doorway between this Earth in a 3rd parallel dimension, this pure place, and a base inside Mount Shasta in Northern California. It is a Galactic Alliance base that's been there since 1908. And much goes on there that isn't what people think it is. Much goes on there that is of a benevolent nature from races who have operated there to keep us from destroying ourselves and to prevent tyrant extraterrestrials from ruining this place and killing off 3/4 of its populace, which they planned. And it failed. 2019, we're all still here. Much is changing now for the better that cannot be reversed. Find yourself above this planet in orbit, in space, looking down on this Earth. No polar ice caps, big continent centered over the equator, left to right. You can see Lemuria in gold letters light up and then fade away, because this is Lemuria. And on the other side is the continent, 2/3 its side, still called Atlantis in English. And this particular Earth in this parallel dimension never flipped its poles like they did regularly on the Earth we are familiar with. A violent affair that destroys all life on the surface. Such an event is so catastrophic, the planet survives. No underground bases from any government miles down would survive it. No base on the backside of the moon would survive it. Bases out in the solar system would survive this kind of change. It affects everything. And it was cyclic until a few years ago when it was stopped permanently from outside this Earth. So that this planet, instead of every 100,000 years being wiped out on the surface by a cataclysmic event that comes through this solar system, instead, this golden age to iron age that people talk about has come to an end for this planet. These poles are not going to flip anymore, so that people on it from other worlds who come here and colonize can grow for many hundreds of millions of years like people on other worlds do. From outside the body, up there in space, in a parallel dimension, looking at this Earth that doesn't look like the Earth you're from, and looking at the moon in this area from space, you see that it's like Earth. It's green, it's got water, there's no polar ice caps, but it's turning on its axis and moving around the sun. Where we come from on Earth, the moon is pockmarked, full of craters with no atmosphere, dead moon. Does not turn on its axis and always shows us the same face as it moves around the planet. It's not destined to always stay like that. When you look in space at this planet, you can see all the billions of stars in our galaxy in a higher frequency of matter. And the black void of space looks black or dark to people with human eyes on Earth looking through radio telescopes or optical telescopes, because their physical human eyes don't see into higher frequencies that are actually full of light. They are energy. And scientists on Earth, both classified and unclassified, know the dark matter in the universe, what they call dark matter, is some kind of energy. It does not observe or obey the laws of physics as people understand it on Earth. And it is supporting everything. It is behind all energy, out in the void of space, between galaxies, between dimensions. And it goes ever upward, beyond the void, up into the upper worlds. And this kind of energy that supports galaxies floating in a void comes from worlds people have forgotten, from far above the void, known to many Buddhist monks. I don't want to say all, because there is much that exists beyond that void. When you go to these dimensions and explore them for yourself, then you will know, as I do, the reality of their existence and how this affects consciousness. And you begin to discover what the meaning and purpose of each individual atma or soul is, and what its co-creative destiny and eternity is with the source. What beings that are most advanced from other worlds in our galaxy call prime creator. It is not a tyrant. It does not require that we worship it, only that we respect it and all life. Not just life on Earth, life in the entire multidimensional creation, because that is what we're capable of doing. When you look out on the black void of space now as the Atma, you can see yourself floating above a physical form that looks like you, made of energy, floating in space. It's fine, it doesn't need to breathe. This is an energetic form of your physical body, it looks like you. And when you look up, you can smile at the Atma that's running you, because you're the same thing. When you look out at the void of space as the Atma, from the white core of your being, you see that space isn't black at all or dark. It's full of a white light with a golden tinge, because the Atma can see it. It's not limited to the limitations of physical eyes on Earth. Then when you look back down on this Earth with no polar ice caps, it suddenly changes. And you see the Earth you're used to, with the polar ice caps, the continental land masses you're familiar with, the moon that is barren, crater marked, and doesn't turn on its axis. And there's our sun in the distance. And then you see yourself hovering above your physical body, wherever it is on Earth. And you hear this high sound of a flute, really high, moving through you. It comes down through the top of your head from the white core of your being, out through the brain, out through the body. It goes out into the planet Earth in an uplifting energy, and it connects to 3 golden pyramids that have been placed on this Earth, not made of matter. And they are transmitting devices, and they're turned on. 2 are in the bottom of Earth's deepest oceans. They're quite large, and there is something inside. 1 is inside a mountain hidden in the Himalayas. And this energy of this experience you're bringing back, a white cord of light goes from you to those pyramids and connects each one. And then it's radiated upward through the Earth to be of uplifting benefit to all life on the planet. That means all life, not just human. And then it goes out into space and connects to that white light with a gold tinge in the so-called black void of space, which isn't. And you see a little sparkle happen as it communicates. You connect into it. And then you look down on your body kindly. Bring the awareness of this journey to that physical body in the trance state called sleep, and wake it up. When you're ready, open your eyes.
Thank you, Scott. So we don't have to worry about disaster like some people are still worried.
They can worry all they want. They can spend their lives worrying about Armageddon, but they just wasting their time, you know, waiting for God to take them to freedom or something later. When they could be completely aware as a God person, operating with that source while they're running a body on earth. That's the reason they came here, or to any world, to ultimately become aware of this while they're running a body form of some kind on some planet. That's why bodies are temporary, because they aren't who we are. They're not meant to be permanent. We are. Running bodies is so that you can have experience with the molecular time rate of the matter that makes up the planet that you're visiting. So you can smell the air and touch and feel, but you're not supposed to get unconsciously trapped into believing you're a body. You're supposed to know who you are while you're running it. Then you can enjoy it. And life becomes very different when you know this. Very different.
Okay.
Do you think there's any other questions your listeners would like to know, or should we just end this recording so we have an end to the long journey?
Yes, I just like to say, like, if the listeners have any questions, they can post, you know, and then we can talk about the questions on the show.
Oh yeah, and I wanted to show them something else real quick. Oh yeah, there it is. Okay. This is not about selling books, because I've spent far more money putting this out in the world than I've ever made from book sales. So you don't need to come up with a negative idea that that's why I'm doing it. We do have to make money on them because I can't even get them on Amazon or anywhere else to get them to people unless I do it that way. This is the Sayre's agenda.
Yeah.
You can see a mile-long cylindrical ship stationed in the ice rings of Saturn on the cover of this book. These disc-shaped craft with the 3 pods underneath, the cobalt kind of blue glass-like top, those are the most modern craft, and they go into the center of this ship when they go on long journeys. That is Saturn in our solar system. In the back of this is a guy named Mark Sandfield. He's got by his tent in the High Sierras alone, and he's rescued by this ship in time before these 3 guys try to kill him. And it begins his journey with extraterrestrials. This has to do with what's taking place out in the universe right now. That is different, never experienced before, unexpected, that has to do with changing this earth, changing the destiny of it. Not just earth, but other things. The Emerald Doorway, this one, you can see a little, this is a proof copy, so that's on the front. You can see the thing that Perry showed you earlier. And here's Master Ramu, a little creature called Etta. He's a Dren, silica-based. He's an organic creature from another world that evolved with the ability to defy gravity. That's Captain Kalem. That's Melina. She's got blue skin. She's not from Earth. This is after the poles flipped 100,000 years ago and the continents were destroyed and new ones took their place, the ones we live on today. This is an open doorway to the 5th dimension. That's above the void, and they're being introduced to the prime creator itself, which doesn't look like a man. And there's Kalem's ship hovering. They're on anti-gravitic discs outside the ship to meet this source. And in the back of this, well, it's got the inner earth held in his hands. This is a guy named Sendar holding a stolen crystal, and of course he's after Earth. There's 3 of these, and this is the first published one. You can get them on Amazon, or once you go to my website at paralleltime.com, PARALLELTIME, and everything is self-explanatory there. I don't sell anything there, but the links to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all that are there. So you can go right to the proper link to get the books if you want to explore hidden truth. In this book at the back is also a 50-some pages of special techniques working with the hue like we use tonight that work for the prologue and all 29 chapters. So it's really laid out well for people, and it will be really helpful to them when they read this. When they read these books, they will have a fantastically expanded understanding of what exists outside Earth and how they view us. not what they're taught on Earth. When they do that with this book, they'll have an understanding of how extraterrestrials influenced this planet 100,000 years ago before the poles flipped. Life was destroyed. And then it was recolonized under treaty. This will really help people understand. So I wanted to make that in their consciousness. Okay.
Hold on. And my life has changed a lot, Scott, since I read your 2 books, okay? And then we do the shows and all your information, the knowledge that you share with us, you know, it's the way to awakening path, I would say.
Yeah, thanks, Perry. I wanted to thank you for having the courage to do something from Thailand out of the blue for the benefit of all life, as you've done with asking me to do this show with you. However many people it reaches, it's reaching the ones that need to hear it. And it expands from there. So it's really a constructive thing that you're doing. And I'm happy to do it. I don't do this for money or charge for this stuff. And, you know, somebody goes on YouTube, I don't think they have to pay to watch the video, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, they can see it and get benefit from it. And this will be up on your YouTube channel so they can play it back and go through it again, like all the others. I think that's very important. So I want to thank you for that.
Okay.
Well, I'll just say good night to everybody. I guess the best thing I can wish all of you is pleasant dreams. Don't think your dreams are a fantasy. They're more real than your life here. The more you become aware of that, the more expanded and free you are as a being. So what we want to do for people on Earth is get them to recover true free will, because right now they don't have it. They just think they do. If you're on Earth and you don't remember who you are as a being or where you came from or what you used to know before you were born here, that's not true free will. Okay.
Okay. Good night, Scott.
Good night.